Hello, my name is Gilbert and welcome to Arcus Woodworking. We'll touch more on what the name of the channel means later down the road, but here we're going to be building various things for the shop that is extremely messy. We're going to build unique things for the home as well as stuff for the business. So today we're going to start by building something for the business. Stick around to the end of the video and I'll have a cost analysis, everything that I spent, as well as I'll do what I would sell anything that I build for, if that's why I was building it. So either what I would sell it for or what I found that it goes for online. And I'll link products that I use. You might get links to certain things that you don't see in the video, and those will be things that I decided later what I got sucked, and so I replaced it with something else. So without further ado, let's build something for the business. So for this project, we're going to be taking this old wine barrel and we're going to be refinishing it, adding a tap to the top, a door to the front, and it is big enough to add a bucket inside of. We're going to be just tapping some beers with this guy. For the barrel itself, I went on Facebook Marketplace, and this will be the only product I can't link for you guys on my website. But I'll just tell you right now exactly how I found it. I went to Facebook Marketplace, I typed in barrel, and well, this is what came up. I was looking for a whiskey barrel, but what I came across was a wine barrel. We have a lot of vineyards near me, and this thing ran me about $40, which is not bad. I just started by giving this thing a light sanding and then dusting off what dust I could. Now I have a wet rag and I'm just going to wipe down the excess. This will give us a nice clean work surface. I'm not going to sand it down too much because that stain from the wine, I actually really like that look. I think it's going to give the finished product a lot of character. Now that our work surface is clean, I'm just starting by marking exactly where I need to make my cuts on those metal rings. This is going to be the cuts for the door, so that way I can actually get into the barrel, and it needs to be a big enough door to where I can fit a bucket. Now the bucket that I opted to use for this is going to be one of the big Yeti ice buckets. I live in the Central Valley, and it can get up to 115 during the summers here, and I know that those Yeti buckets will hold ice through a long hot day like that. And so I measured the bucket and it should fit in here just fine. Of course, we won't know until we cut it open. So once I've made my reference lines on one side, I'm going to go to the other side of the barrel and make some more reference lines, just making sure I keep them straight, keep my door looking even. I don't want it to be tighter on the top than it is on the bottom. That'll make the finished product look pretty bad. So now that I have my reference lines on the metal, I can go ahead and use the straight edge of the ruler to connect those two lines, so I have a line now to follow when I'm cutting the wood. I'm just going to cut along those lines, and then I'm going to follow this line here along the top, and it'll be the same thing on the bottom. It'll be a pretty tall door, but that's all right. So now it was time to make my cut. I just used the metal cutting blade on my angle grinder, and this cut went quick and easy. If you went too far in, you can start to see the smoke of the barrel, and well, that's when I knew to stop. All in all, these cuts were quick and easy to make. I had to add a couple screws to each side of my cut, so that way it would hold the metal ring onto the barrel. If I didn't add these screws, the ring would just pop off, and the only thing that's keeping those rings on there without those screws is friction. So once you make that cut, they just want to pop right off. If you don't know this tip, this is a great way to puncture through something that's solid like this. Just cutting at it, starting at an angle and then working your way straight up and down. I'm using the world's worst jigsaw to cut the door in this barrel. I'll get something better that you'll see a little bit. Not in this video, but in future videos. I'll have better tools. The next step was to add on these hinges. These hinges will just hold everything in place while I finish the final cuts on the door. I don't want to cut the other side and completely cut the door out, roll the barrel over, and then the door falls out, and then I'm messing with alignment. I found these hinges on Amazon, of course. These are just some dark, gothic looking hinges. We're going to stain the wood a really dark, like walnut color, and we're going to paint the metal rings black. I think this will give it kind of like, my wife described it as a piratey type of theme. She wanted it to look like basically we took it straight from a pirate ship. That was her goal. After getting the hinges all set, I wanted to add these additional screws to the top here. This will just give support. This will pull those slats in along that line where I'm going to cut them. Everything on this barrel is held together basically by friction. So when I start making cuts, I'm going to mess up the alignment. And you see that right here, I'm pointing out that I'm trying to add about 2 screws per slat. Next, same as I do to one side, I do to the other. Time to cut the metal rings on the opposite side of the door, and then follow up with the jigsaw to finish off these cuts. You didn't see, but I used the same jigsaw to make the cuts along the bottom and top line of the door. You can see that cut's already been made, but I don't know where that footage went, so maybe next time. I would like to point out that I don't know where I got this jigsaw, but this is not how fast it's cutting. It was going so slow, I had to speed it up. So this is another awesome feature that came with the barrel. You can see the stamping, the age stamping, as well as where the actual barrel came from, what the vineyard was. I opted to give this just a really light sanding, so that way you can still see all of that stuff through the stain. And it ended up coming out really cool. You can see even later when it came time to drill holes for the keg stand, I offset it slightly from where I originally wanted it, which was exact center, so that way you can not cover up any of that stamping. You can still see it all. So after some final touches to my sanding work there, it was time to tape off the barrel and get the metal rings ready to paint. Now, I had a second barrel in the background that you can probably spot here and there. I had attempted to take these rings off all the way, but that's actually how I had found out that most of this was held on by friction. So leave the rings on and do the paint that way. So I ended up wasting a bunch of time trying to get all of that tape perfectly lined up against those metal rings. I ended up using this screwdriver to just push it further, and then it would cut the tape, and this ended up working way better. I was able to get these lines done without having to sit there and meticulously line everything up. And before you knew it, I was ready to start spraying. So for our spray, this is just a layer of white primer. This will give us a good adhesion on our final coat. This is by Rust-Oleum. I just got this at my local box store. I think it was $8 or something for the can. The one can was more than enough to finish the one barrel. And I actually ended up even going and doing a second coat. So for the coat of primer, I went one time all the way around just doing a light coat. And then I gave it about half an hour to dry. And then I went through, I felt like I still had enough primer left. I just went through and I added a second light coat. I don't know if that does anything, or maybe I guess it would touch on any places that I missed. Unfortunately, though, you won't be able to see me spray the final coat, which is the black paint. It's the exact same process as spraying the white paint, except when I push the button, black paint comes out. So you're not missing a whole lot. You'll be able to see what it looks like in the end. I just don't know where that footage went. Got lost somewhere. So here you'll be able to see what the black looks like. It ended up coming out really nice. Unfortunately, I forgot to add a few screws, so I had to shove some of these self-tapping screws in here to hold those slats on. I just ended up doing a light tape job to protect the wood, and then I went over again with a second coat of paint. You couldn't actually see that I added these screws later. It blended really well. But take it from me, that's what you get for not paying attention. So make sure you add all your screws where you want before you start painting. It'll make your life probably about 3 or 4 times easier, and then you won't have to puncture holes into your freshly painted metal. So this seems like a pretty decent time, though, to mention that when I bought all these supplies, I didn't actually know the thickness of the walls of a barrel. So I got these, I think they're 3/4 inch screws, but you lose a lot of the thread because they're self-tapping. So there's probably about 1/4 inch of them that is the self-tapping bit on the end of the screw, and you only get about 1/2 inch of actual thread. The metal rings are almost 1/4 inch, so you don't have I don't have a lot of thread, at least, holding these screws in place. I would get inch-long screws, self-tapping still, just to make my life easier. After all of these screws were set, it was time to open her up and see that on the inside she needed a little bit of love and care. There was quite a bit of staining, which I didn't mind, but there was quite a bit of mold because I don't know how long this barrel's been sitting. After a good sanding, we were able to start getting rid of all of the mold and the grossness and just leave that pretty purple stain. Next, it was time to add the door hardware. Keeping with the old pirate look, we found these latch and door pull system. And my thought was to just add these on the outside, just like this. That should do just fine. But unfortunately, it is actually quite curved around this bend. And when I tried to attach it, the latch actually ended up breaking. So I ended up chiseling out this part so that way that latch, when it's closed, is actually against a straight line and it doesn't have to fight the natural bend of the barrel. And then I was able to throw these on and not have any more issues. I ended up marking where I needed to chisel out by placing the latch on there,
kind of pretending that it didn't have a bend, so I had to guess a little bit, but that's all right. It ended up coming out pretty well. So I just marked the end of each one, and then I connected it by using a handsaw and just starting with contact only in the middle and going down until I had both ends meeting exactly where they needed to be. Then I could just chisel the rest out without worrying that I was going to go too deep or not flat enough. I was using the depth of the handsaw that I used as my depth guide, I guess. And it ended up working out really well. I did end up rounding these corners a little bit so that way it wasn't such a straight edge, and it added just a little bit. It took a little bit of the depth away from it, which is what I wanted. So here, with a little bit of effort, this latch closes perfectly now. The door, after I cut it, it didn't want to stay like perfect in its spot when the door was closed. That's an issue that only lasted about a day or two. I don't know what happened with the wood, if it just adjusted afterwards. But after I got all of the hinges on it, I just let it sit closed for a day or two. It was actually able to open and close with ease. It's not giving me any problems like I'm having here. These screws that I'm using to fasten the hardware on, these aren't screws that came with the hardware itself. The screws that came with it were actually pretty flimsy and pretty weak. So these are just wood screws I have left over from somewhere. And yes, I will paint them black. I'm just putting them on here so that way I know everything has its home. Everything is where it's supposed to be, and everything fits just how I want it to. So here I have to hold the door closed with my knee while I do the latch. And this is what I was talking about, that I only had to do it the first day. After the wood had time to adjust, it went back to opening and closing pretty normal. Next was the fun part. I get to mark exactly where I want the tap handle. Now, originally I had wanted this to be the exact center, but after giving it a little bit extra thought, you're going to see me drill some holes, and then when I set it on there, I don't actually want to cover up those markings that are on the top there, so I move it back maybe about 1/4 of an inch. It's not enough to where you're going to realize that it's not center. It looks pretty damn center to me. So here, I'm not using my little trick that I used earlier with the jigsaw to get my cut started. I'm just drilling a hole straight down the middle since I need to cut out a circle. It doesn't have to be a very big circle. I just have to fit the hose through the top of the barrel here and feed it down into the inside. So I don't need anything too fancy. I'm just gonna cut away. I didn't even measure. It didn't have to be like particularly symmetrical or anything. Most of it's all gonna be hidden. So this is an awesome part of the build. Now I get to put the handle on there, and I'm gonna mark my holes so that way I can drill right now, but this lets me set it on there, step back, and really get to look and see what it's gonna look like. I can choose whether I want the door to be in the front or in the back. I end up squaring the holes so that way if I need to, I can undo those screws and I can actually spin it. So these are barrels that are going to be used as kind of like a rental service. Now I can leave it up to the client. Do you want the door in the front? Do you like that look? Or do you want it to just be a cleaner look and have the doors in the back? And this gives me the option of doing both. My wife actually really likes the way that it looks both ways, so now we can leave it up to the client. So now that the screw holes are all set, we can pop the top on, but first, time to clean it up, give it a little wiping with a wet rag. It's time to get some finish on the barrel. Now, I didn't actually film me putting finish on the entire barrel, but I did record me putting some on the top, and it's essentially the same thing. We're using this Minwax, I think it's called Special Walnut is the color, and just get it on there with a rag and go with the grain as much as you can, making sure you get it in all the little nooks and crannies. Get it really thick on that end grain that you can see right there on the edge of the top of the barrel. That place really soaks in the finish. And I think that this ended up coming out looking really nice, especially next to the black with the rings. Ended up coming out really pretty looking. So I ended up letting this finish sit on there for about 2 days is what it took to fully cure, and then I ended up putting on a thin layer of a polyurethane for the top. This just makes sure that if I have any beer spills from clients, it's not going to ruin the barrel. It's not going to soak in and mess up that finish. I think it came out looking really nice.
Well, that was a fun build. It was relatively easy, and it took only about a day. And I built 2 of them. I don't know if you could tell in the footage. There was another one that was being built along with it, and it was kind of pushed off to the side. I just wanted to focus on one. Anyways, you can build 2 of these in a day, and from what I saw that they go for online, they sell with just the tap equipment on top and a hose down the middle for about $1,500, and that wasn't including shipping. I'm not building it to sell it. I built 2 of them for our business, which is my wife is getting into wedding rentals. So we've got the barrels now. We've got 2 barrels now, as well as this is actually a tap wall next to me. It's not 100% done, and no, I didn't film anything, but I did film the framing for this one behind me, and I'll film that whole process. So subscribe down below. That video will be coming, probably won't be the next one, but it will be coming this year. We have a couple other ideas in mind. You won't see me do more barrels, you'll see me do the wall. We want to do a tap trailer. So hopefully you guys get to see a video of me building a trailer from the ground up, insulating it, and creating a tap trailer that you guys could build for clients or sell or just have for fun. As well as I'll have some ideas on other things you can tap. I've seen people tap old refrigerators. So if you have a garage fridge, I'll show you how to drill a hole into it and add a tap to the outside with a keg on the inside, and you're good for beer all the time. If you guys liked that video, I will ask you please like and subscribe down below. This is just a hobby for me right now, and I want to create a lot of other videos, I'm gonna do them regardless. But if you subscribe below and I can see that there are people who want to return to watch stuff, then that will probably light a fire under me and keep me a little bit more focused, and I'll get these videos out for you guys. So we'll see. Link down below in the description that'll go to my website, where in the future I will have build plans available for you guys. But for this video in particular, I will have everything that I used, as well as a couple additional things that you can use for the tapping process, just linked down. So quick links to everything. I have buckets, compressed air, and actual reusable kegs that you can use as well. So I mean, you'll be able to get everything from the barrel to all of the equipment. You can find the beer on your own, I'm sure. Bye. Oh, real quick before I go, I wanted to use this. Real quick before I go, I wanted to use this opportunity, this video, as a benchmark for my channel, I guess. So, if that makes any sense. I want to lay out what I want for the year. So, we can use this, we can go back in a year and see if I met those goals. I want to be doing this consistently because I want to, well, I'd like to learn new things, and I like to teach people things that I've learned. And so this channel will build things for the house, for the company, I said all of that, but I'm also going to use it as anything that I learn how to do. I'll teach you guys how to do it, and there will be blog posts on the website that will run through everything in detail. And like for this video, if you guys actually are interested in building one of these tap barrels, or maybe you want to do the wall, or maybe you want to do a trailer down the road, I had to read quite a few articles in order to learn how to tap everything properly, what's the best equipment, what's all the equipment that I'm going to need. There's no reason for both of us to have to do that research. So if you're interested in building any of these things, comment down below and let me know. I'll make a separate video. It'll only be about 5 minutes or so, but I'll run through all of the different things that I learned, how to connect everything, what I picked and why I picked it. It's mostly going to be quality over saving money. I don't like to buy things twice. So everything that I bought, I made sure is going to last me for years. At this point, I've already had the tap barrels for about 6 months, and I've used the equipment and I absolutely love it. There was one thing that I had to change out. I don't have to edit anything because I've done that long ago. It's already updated on the list of things that I've used. So any affiliate links, any links to products, they're all down below, and they're finalized. Everything's been tested, and it's good quality stuff that you won't have to replace unless you're really hard on your things. I haven't broken anything yet, so. But any videos that I make that you're more interested in learning about the process or learning something more in depth, let me know in the comments below, and if I see enough people wanting that information, I'll make little videos. There's no reason I should have to do any research and you have to do it as well. I'll run through everything I learned in a quick and easy way, so that way you have that knowledge too. So goals for the channel this year, for the first couple months, I want to try and do just one video a month. I'm thinking January, February, March, one video at least each month. I want to get up to 2 videos every month before we hit about 6 months into the year. And then I want to push myself on a schedule. So not just 2 videos every month, but 1 video every other week, consistently on the same day. I'm gonna aim for weekends, probably Saturdays. But I'm gonna use this year to really apply a schedule to myself and hold myself accountable for it. Everything that I'm saying right now, at the start of next year, I'll go back and I'll reference it and we'll touch on, did I hit my goals? Did I not hit my goals? That way, those of you who are wanting to do a YouTube channel just for fun, or maybe you're trying to make a profit out of it, I'm doing it for a hobby, and I know that it has the potential for monetary gains. It would be nice to have a hobby that funded at least itself. That's my goal. I don't want to pour a bunch of money into a really expensive hobby like building stuff and that just doesn't go anywhere. I want it to at least fund itself, and that's it. So until hopefully 2 weeks from now, bye.